once again, settle back in an armchair and enjoy with us another hour of football nostalgia. This week, Mick and Alan are going to look back on one of the most formidable club sides that British soccer has ever seen. They really weren't very popular in the early 1970s, but that never bothered Leeds United or their manager, Don Revie. Alan, it's strange, isn't it, that Leeds, despite their success in the 70s, were never really accepted by British crowds?
No, they weren't. First of all, may I say they were possibly one of the greatest club sides that I had the privilege of playing against. Over this period of time, they were very, very good. I think why people didn't take to them, because they went about their business in a cynical type of way. They had an awful lot of good players with fantastic skills. The thing about them was they just ground people into the dust, but they did it with good football. But the little things along the way that I didn't like about them got up people's noses.
I mean, they were the first side which you would say were real professionals. You know, I think that a lot of the games we saw before, there was a lot of passion and a lot of feeling. But they as a unit, they did everything right. They had their free kicks organised. They had all their set plays organised. They even say that they, you know, once they got into Europe, they used to get booked in rotation so they wouldn't get banned, you know, because they were a hard side and they could compete. They put their foot in. And, you know, I mean, I always thought that they stuck together, but they were probably the first real professional side and the first people that worked at being what I would say professional or gamesmanship. I don't know what you call it, but I mean, if there was anything that, any shortcut of getting an advantage, they were up to it. They had pros at it, Bremners and your Gileses. They knew every little dodge and every, you know, Hunter would kick you up the backside, you know, bite your legs, as they used to say, but they were really pros. They
worked hard for each other. They had such an awful lot of ability, but within the confines of that, they had people who knew exactly what they were doing, and as I say, they knew every trick in the book, and you've got to put an awful lot down to the manager for that.
See, I often think that there's no big secret to great teams. You know, when you start looking at your Coopers, your Hunters, your Bremners, your Gileses, your Clarkes, Jonesy, Eddie Gray. I mean, you've got 5 or 6, 7 great players. All of a sudden come together in one team. You know, obviously you've got to have a manager. And, you know, Revie was the one, to be fair, who brought the kids and that through. So he's got to take, you know, an awful lot of credit.
They brought Giles from Manchester United, didn't they?
That's right.
I remember playing in the early days, and Billy Bremner was a right winger, frightened to death.
Billy Bremner was Johnny Giles was, wasn't he?
Billy Bremner was an outside right for Leeds as a kid, and he was frightened to death. But he came in within that framework of that team, and one of the best little competitors I had the privilege of playing against, and I used to really enjoy my games against him, because you knew it was going to be a right ding-donger. But within that framework of that team, he gathered strength. Johnny Giles was a right wing for Manchester United. He came into that midfield and gathered strength from the whole framework of the team around them.
Right, well, let's just briefly sample some of those great Leeds players in action.
To Keith Newton, and he's made a gift of it to Jones. And here's Giles. It's there. Giles has equalised. Madeley back to Lorimer. And Bremner. It's there. What a lovely goal by Bremner. Again, the cool head of this little man.
And Gray to Giles. Gray now to Clarke. Webb going in hard, and Clarke beautifully getting past him and past Cook. And now Mick Jones. McCready trying to go in. And a goal by Jones.
Gray. Good ball meant for Johannesson, and here's Gray, and a cool save. Lorimer had to have 2 attempts at that. Gray still up there. Eddie Gray. Oh, good footwork by Gray, still going. Oh, what a lovely goal, what a masterly goal by Eddie Gray. A superb bit of football.
We've just seen a marvellous goal from Eddie Gray. It has to be one of the great individual goals of the 70s, doesn't it? I mean, he left virtually everyone in that Burnley defence on their backside.
Well, that's right. It was tremendous skill, you know. I mean, I think he had 2 or 3 drag backs, didn't he? I mean, once on the byline, he looked as if he was going to cross it, and he's dragged it back and sent the fella, he had to pay to get back in there. That right back, didn't he, there once? But then he's come in and he's beat, I don't know, how many men did he beat? 3 or 4?
Or more.
And see, I mean, I tell you, at the end, he improvised great because he more or less toe-poked it. Because when the space closed down, I thought he was more or less he just jabbed it, didn't he?
Yes.
And he hit it early and it flew in the corner. It was a great goal.
Well, the fact that he used both feet about 3 times. It was a drag back right to left, left to right, and he was just wrong-footing people all the way along the line. And fantastic sequence of seeing a player use both feet and use his body to beat people in tight areas. It was one of the special goals that I've ever seen.
Gray still up there. Eddie Gray. Oh, good footwork by Gray, still going. Oh, what a lovely goal, what a masterly goal by Eddie Gray.
They were the best team I know at that time. They started keeping the ball, which no other English team used to do. I mean, you know, be patient. You know, I mean, that wasn't heard of really in English football. We had to get it forward, get it in the penalty area, and score goals. They started keeping the ball, knocking the ball back, being patient, knocking it wide, bringing it out, back out bally, weren't they? And it was that was the type of team they were, and they were probably the first at it.
But
they intimidated referees, they intimidated other teams, they stuck together. Anybody went into a tackle, anything like an injury, woof, they were all there. And they would fight as 11. There'd be people out the box, they were so together.
That's what they were like. I mean, Jalsey was a nasty little bit of work. Yeah, I mean, probably he was on a par with Terry Payne, you know? I mean, he was probably the most hated player in the game. And then you got little Bremner. Ooh, he was a vicious little man. You know, and I always say Norman Hunter was the nicest off the pitch, wasn't he? When you were away with England, he was the nicest bloke you could wish to meet. And on the pitch, he wouldn't kick you face on, you know, but he'd tread all down the backs of your calves as soon as you had your back to him. You know, I mean, it was.
Yeah, it's easy.
They had it sussed. They were the first team to really, you know, get everything weighed up and take every advantage they possibly could.
Yes. Well, let's move on then to 1973-74, the second year that Leeds won the First Division crown. We're going to bring you 3 games from that season. First stop is Stamford Bridge, Chelsea. It's December, but Leeds are unbeaten in the league. Your commentator, Brian Moore.
So Leeds then are 90 minutes away from marking a place in the history books. This amazing side that is comfortably leading the First Division and is now this one match away from setting a record with 20 games without defeat at the start of the season, beating the 19 achieved by Liverpool in 1949-50. The crowd at Stamford Bridge this afternoon is 40,000, the biggest of the day.
So Leeds United in their all-yellow strip today, just 90 minutes away from this record of 20 games without defeat. Facing a Chelsea side that is in such good form at the moment with 10 points out of their last 12. Here's Baldwin and Osgood. And Garland is off in pursuit. And Kemba is right there with a great chance and really came within an instant of putting it into his own goal. A tremendous break out of defence by Chelsea in the first 30 seconds of the game. Kemba really only half hitting that shot. And there was an enormous gap in that Leeds defence, and Hunter is having a word with McQueen so that it shall not happen again. Well, we nearly had a most dramatic of openings there. Here's Harvey with the kick. Webb went into that challenge as though he really meant it. Bremner giving the ball to Osgood. Played on again this time for Baldwin. But Trevor Cherry there. Madeley to Yorath, and now Madeley's beaten by Kemba. And now Osgood once again. Madeley is back. Bremner forward to Joe Jordan, and now Bremner again. Going on a long way, touched on by Jordan, and Bremner had gone right on. Houseman, though, had gone right back with it. Well, there must have been an early scare there.